Alright, welcome back. I have another tutorial for you guys. It's another painting tutorial, as you guys can see in front of you. If you saw my last video, you'll understand why I have two pieces in front of you. I'm going to show you a basic coat for the concrete look, and then I'm going to show you a little bit more advanced painting technique for this second one. I do want to mention in the beginning of this video, these are the two pieces when we did the black basing tutorial. These are the bases that I used, the rubbing alcohol watered down mixture for the black wash. And as well, this one has the texturing for the custom swatches that I make to do texturing. And this one is, if I remember correctly, this one's the concrete one. The concrete block that we use to texture it. I'm going to move one of these aside. We're going to get into the base color, the very simple one. And then we're going to move on to the more advanced painting one. As always, guys, at the end of my videos, I always have pictures of all the things I use in this video, so if I don't mention something, it's going to be there, so stay tuned to the end of the video to see that. Alright, so as you can see in front of you, we have the damage piece that we did in a previous video. I'm going to show you guys again, just in case you guys didn't see my last video, the dry brushing technique that I like using when I'm basing my bricks. So, usually the rule of thumb, if you're a beginner, just to make things easier for you, you can mess around with this technique later. Usually want to start with the darkest color and then work your way up, decreasing the amount of coverage that you have on your bricks. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just applying my darkest gray that I'm using onto a brush and then drying it off on a paper towel, or you can use, a piece of cardboard or whatever you want, and getting the brush fairly dry. And then I'm going to go at a 45-degree angle and just slowly and lightly press onto the bricks to get the paint on there. You don't want to push in too hard. You don't want to get into the texturing that you made. You don't want to get into the nooks and crannies. You just want the very top of your bricks to get coated with this paint. And again, if you're looking for a damaged look, a really decrepit look, you're only going to want to do about 80 to 90% coverage. Roughly around 80, I would say, for coverage on here. You want some of that black showing to try to give that beat down, dirty look that you're going for. I'm gonna, now that I showed you guys the dry brushing technique, I'm gonna zoom in and show you guys how the paint is being applied, so you can see the type of coverage that you get as you're dry brushing. As you can see, we're here a little bit closer, so you guys can see the paint being applied. I'm just doing the same dry brushing technique on the side where you guys can't see, and I'm going to apply the paint so you guys can see what kind of coverage you're looking for. Like I said, you're not going to get this first coat down all in one go. You're just going to take your time and just dry brush the whole thing. The other bricks that I showed you in the beginning of this video, I'm going to do the same base coat. I'm going to finish this one up, and you're going to see it at the end of the video with just this paint. I'm going to move on to the other one that has the same base coat of the color, and then we're just going to add some more colors in there to try to give it a good variation of colors, and you guys will see the advanced technique compared to just the base coat of this gray. That's pretty much it. I'm going to switch to the next piece and then we'll come right back. Alright, as you guys can see in front of you, you guys can see both pieces base coated in it's Hippo Gray. That's the base coat that I use. Like I said, it's going to be at the end of the video if you want to see what colors I use. But just so you guys know, I started off with Hippo Gray. As you can see, I didn't cover this one as much. I left a lot of the black wash showing through, so it gives it that really beat up look. This one's about 90% covered with that Hippo Gray color. I just want to show you guys the comparison. This one's pretty much done. Like I said, this is the simple way to do it. You just do the one coat and that could be your concrete color. But now we're going to move on to this. This is has the same base coat as this one, and we're going to get into the more advanced with different shades of gray in there as well. So I'm going to put this aside and we're going to move on to this piece. Like I said, we're going to add 2 more colors to this. It's 2 more shades of gray. If you saw my last video, I kind of explained how when you add more shades of gray, it gives it a more realistic look. So that's what we're going to do with this one, just with gray. The last video was the red bricks, of course. So I'm just going to use the same dry brushing technique that I talked about earlier with these different colors. I'm going to move on to a Graphite Gray. That's the next color that's going to go onto this. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see that paint being applied. You can kind of see the color difference, hopefully, with these lights on here. So I'm moving closer. Okay, here we are with a closer look. I just want to mention a quick tip for you guys right before we start applying the extra coats of paint on here. If you do the dry brushing correctly, your paint will dry pretty fast since it is a really thin layer. If you don't get the full coat the first time, like I said, it's going to take a couple tries to go over it to get a good coverage that you like. Also, if your paint dry, if the paint on your paintbrush hasn't dried completely, you can leave the first color that you used on there and still dip your brush into the new color. It kind of helps it blend in a little bit better. But of course, if your paint is dry on your brush, I do recommend washing it off before you go to this next step. So all I do for this next step is I have that Graphite Gray, which is a lighter tone than the gray that we put on previously. I'm just getting the paint on the brush, drying it off like I showed earlier, and I'm just going to apply this very sparingly across this. You don't want to do 90% coverage like we did with the first tone. You kind of want to go for, if you already did 90% on this, you want to go for about a 70% coverage on there. You don't want to cover up your base color. You just want to highlight what's already on there. Like I said too, don't press very hard because you don't want to get into those nooks and crannies in that texturing that we put in earlier. Just want to go over the edges just fairly roughly. And that's good. That's a good amount of coverage right there. If you can't tell with the lighting on here, I'm going to have the high-res pictures at the end so you guys can see the different shades. But now I'm going to go into the next color, which is just a regular gray. It's lighter than this, and you just want to go about 20% coverage with this type of gray. Like I said, you don't want to cover up the paint that you already put down. You're just trying to highlight those colors. Just prepping my brush to dry brush on here right now. I got my color. I'm just going to go very lightly around the bricks, kind of in a haphazard way, just to highlight some parts more than others. And that's it right there. And that's the more advanced technique right there. It's not highly advanced, but it does give you a couple more shades of gray to work with. And in my opinion, I really like this way of doing it. Maybe in the future I'll do another different technique for the concrete bricks that I like using as well. That gives it a very cleaner look. But as always guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and hit that sexy subscribe button.